What happens when Hollywood royalty meets late-night television and everything goes wrong? In just 31 seconds, a single comment would turn a friendly interview into the most shocking exit in talk show history. Stephen Colbert sat behind his desk that evening, ready for what he thought would be another typical celebrity interview. The audience was buzzing with excitement. Meghan Markle walked onto the stage in a flowing designer gown, waving to the crowd with a practiced smile. The applause was deafening as she took her seat across from Stephen. "Welcome to the show," Stephen said warmly, his signature grin lighting up his face. "We're so excited to have you here tonight." Meghan settled into her chair, adjusting her dress with careful precision. "Well, I'm excited to be here, Stephen. Though I must say I expected a more grand entrance. The hallway backstage was quite cramped." The audience laughed nervously, unsure if she was joking. Stephen chuckled good-naturedly. "Yes, well, we're working with what we have here. It's network television, not a palace." Her smile tightened. "Right, of course." Stephen dove into his first question, trying to warm things up. "So, you've been very busy lately. Tell us about your latest projects. What have you been working on?" Meghan leaned forward, her eyes brightening. "Well, Stephen, I've been working on something truly groundbreaking. A documentary series about my life, my struggles, my journey. It's going to change how people see everything." "That sounds interesting," Stephen replied. "What makes it different from other documentaries?" "What makes it different?" Meghan repeated, her tone sharp. "Stephen, my story is unlike anything anyone has ever experienced. The level of scrutiny I've faced, the absolute persecution, it's unprecedented in human history." The audience fell silent. Stephen blinked, maintaining his composure. "Well, I think there have been many people throughout history who have faced significant scrutiny and hardship. Are you seriously comparing my experience to others right now?" Meghan's voice rose slightly. "Do you have any idea what it's like to have the entire world watching your every move, judging everything you do?" Stephen kept his tone light and friendly. "I think many public figures experience that to varying degrees. I mean, I'm on television every night. People have opinions about everything I say." "It's not the same, Stephen, and you know it," she snapped. "You could never understand what I've been through. You're a man. You've never had to deal with what I deal with." The atmosphere in the studio shifted. The audience members exchanged uncomfortable glances. Stephen took a breath, trying to steer the conversation back on track. "I'm not trying to diminish your experience. I'm just trying to have a conversation here." "A conversation?" Meghan laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Is that what you call this? Minimizing my trauma?" "I'm not minimizing anything," Stephen said calmly. "I asked you about your documentary, and you're the one who brought up comparisons." Meghan sat back in her chair, crossing her arms. "You know what? This is exactly the problem. People like you, sitting in your comfortable positions, questioning people like me who have actually suffered." "People like me?" Stephen's eyebrows raised. "What does that mean exactly?" "You know what it means," she said coldly. "You have your platform, your security, your comfortable life. You've never had to fight for anything." The audience gasped. Stephen's producer could be heard whispering urgently into someone's headset off stage. Stephen leaned forward, his voice still measured, but firmer now. "Actually, I've worked very hard to get where I am. I started in comedy clubs, worked my way through improv, struggled for years before getting any recognition. But this isn't about me. This is supposed to be your interview." "Oh, how generous of you," Meghan said sarcastically. "The great Stephen Colbert, giving me time on his show. Should I be grateful? Should I bow?" "I never said that," Stephen replied, his patience clearly being tested. "You agreed to come on this show. No one forced you to be here." "Maybe I shouldn't have come," she shot back. "Clearly you're not prepared to have a real conversation with someone who speaks truth to power." Stephen set down his note cards. "Speaking truth to power. I'm a comedian with a talk show. We're just trying to have a conversation here. Just a conversation, Meghan mocked. That's what everyone says right before they try to tear you down. I've seen this playbook before, Stephen. Ask seemingly innocent questions, then twist everything to make me look bad. I haven't twisted anything, Stephen said, his voice rising slightly for the first time. I've asked you about your projects. You're the one who has turned this into something confrontational. Because you're being confrontational, Meghan's voice echoed through the studio. Every question is loaded. Every word is designed to undermine me. The audience sat in stunned silence. Stephen looked directly at the camera, then back at Meghan. I genuinely don't understand what's happening right now. Can we just take a breath and start over? Start over? Meghan stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Why, so you can patronize me some more? So you can sit there with your smug face and pretend you care about what I have to say? Stephen remained seated, his hands raised in a calming gesture. I'm not being smug. I invited you here because I thought we could have an interesting conversation. Clearly, I was wrong. Finally, something honest from you, Meghan said, pointing at him. You know what your problem is, Stephen. You think you're better than everyone else. You think you can sit behind that desk and judge people, make your little jokes, and everyone should just laugh along. That's literally my job, Stephen said flatly. It's a comedy show. People come here expecting humor. At whose expense? Meghan demanded. At mine? You want to make me the butt of your jokes? I haven't made a single joke at your expense, Stephen replied, his voice steady. Not one. If anything, you've been insulting me for the last several minutes. Meghan's face flushed red. Oh, here we go. Poor Stephen Colbert, feeling attacked. How will you ever recover? The audience began to murmur. Some people looked away, embarrassed by what they were witnessing. Stephen's bandleader looked concerned from his position across the stage. Stephen took a deep breath. Look, I think maybe we should just end this interview. This clearly isn't working. Oh, you want to end it? Meghan's voice dripped with contempt. Of course you do. When things get real, when someone actually challenges you, you want to shut it down. Typical. I'm trying to be respectful here, Stephen said, but you've done nothing but attack me since you sat down. I asked you about your documentary. That's it. Everything else has come from you. Because your question was insulting, Meghan shouted. The way you asked it, the tone, everything about it was designed to belittle me. Stephen shook his head. I asked you what makes your documentary different from others. That's a standard interview question. I ask every guest about their projects. Well, maybe you should think more carefully about how you phrase things when you're talking to someone who has been through what I've been through, Meghan snapped. What have you been through exactly? Stephen asked, his patience finally wearing thin. Because right now, the only difficult thing happening is this conversation, which you are making difficult. Meghan's eyes widened. Are you seriously asking me that question? Are you seriously that ignorant? I'm asking because you keep referencing your struggles. But when I try to have an actual conversation about them, you accuse me of attacking you, Stephen explained. So I genuinely don't know what you want from this interview. I want you to show some respect, Meghan practically yelled. Is that so much to ask? Some basic human decency? I have shown you nothing but respect, Stephen replied firmly. You walked onto this stage, and I welcomed you warmly. I introduced you to the audience. I asked you about your work, and you have responded by insulting me, insulting my show, and creating an incredibly uncomfortable situation for everyone here. Meghan grabbed her purse from beside the chair. I don't have to listen to this. I don't have to sit here and be lectured by you. No one is lecturing you, Stephen said. I'm simply pointing out that you've been hostile from the moment you sat down. Hostile? Meghan's laugh was sharp and bitter. You have no idea what hostile looks like. You've lived such a privileged, sheltered life that the moment someone pushes back even slightly, you call it hostile. Stephen stood up now, his professional demeanor cracking slightly. You know what? You're right. We should end this. Thank you for coming on the show. Don't patronize me with your fake gratitude, Meghan spat. You don't mean that. You're just trying to look good for your precious audience. I'm trying to end this professionally, Stephen said. But clearly, even that's not acceptable to you. Meghan turned to face the audience. You all see this, right? You see how he's treating me? This is exactly what I've been talking about. The media, the establishment, all of it. They smile to your face while stabbing you in the back. The audience remained silent, unsure how to react. Some people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Stephen addressed the audience directly. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this. This is not how these interviews typically go. Of course you're apologizing to them, Meghan said mockingly. Not to me. Never to the person you've actually wronged. Just to your audience, your fans, the people who will defend you no matter what you do. I haven't wronged you, Stephen said, his voice tired now. I asked you about your documentary. That's all I did. You asked me in a dismissive way, Meghan insisted. Everything about your tone suggested you don't take me or my work seriously. Stephen ran a hand through his hair. I literally said it sounds interesting. Those were my exact words. It sounds interesting. But you didn't mean it, Meghan countered. I could hear it in your voice. The condescension. The judgment. I think you're hearing things that aren't there, Stephen said carefully. I think maybe you came into this interview expecting a confrontation, and you're determined to have one regardless of what I actually say. Meghan's face contorted with anger. Don't you dare psychoanalyze me. You don't know anything about me or what I'm thinking. You're right, I don't, Stephen agreed, because every time I try to ask you something, you accuse me of having ulterior motives. Because you do, Meghan shouted. Everyone in this industry does. You all have your agendas, your little plans to make yourselves look good while making others look bad. Stephen's producer appeared at the edge of the stage, making urgent hand signals. Stephen glanced over, then back at Meghan. I think we need to take a commercial break. Oh, how convenient, Meghan said bitterly. Run away. Hide. That's what you people always do when you can't handle the truth. The truth? Stephen's voice rose. What truth? You've made accusations. You've insulted me repeatedly, but you haven't said anything of substance this entire time. Maybe you're just not smart enough to understand substance when you hear it, Meghan retorted. The audience gasped audibly at this. Stephen's jaw tightened. Okay, that's enough. I've tried to be patient. I've tried to be understanding, but I'm not going to stand here and let you insult my intelligence on my own show. Your show, Meghan repeated mockingly. Yes, your show. Your kingdom. Your little empire, where you get to control everything and everyone. It's literally my show, Stephen said. My name is in the title. And you know what? I think it's time for you to leave. Meghan's eyes flashed with anger and something else. Perhaps satisfaction. There it is. The real Stephen Colbert. Can't handle a strong woman who speaks her mind, so you kick her off. This has nothing to do with you being a woman or being strong, Stephen said firmly. This has to do with you being incredibly rude and disrespectful. I would ask any guest to leave if they behaved this way, regardless of who they are. Sure you would, Meghan said sarcastically. Keep telling yourself that. Keep pretending you're the good guy here. Stephen took a step back, creating more distance between them. I'm not claiming to be anything. I'm just a host who invited a guest on his show, and that guest has spent the entire time attacking him for no reason. No reason? Meghan's voice went up an octave. I have every reason. People like you have been coming after people like me for years. The double standards, the hypocrisy, all of it. What double standards? Stephen asked, genuinely bewildered. What are you talking about? If you have to ask, you're part of the problem, Meghan said cryptically. You're so embedded in your privilege that you can't even see it. Stephen looked directly at the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have our musical guest. Don't you dare cut to commercial while I'm speaking, Meghan demanded. The interview is over, Stephen said flatly. I've asked you to leave. Meghan stood frozen for a moment, then grabbed her purse with dramatic flair. Fine, I'll leave, but everyone here will know what really happened. They'll know how you treated me. They saw exactly what happened, Stephen replied. The cameras have been rolling this entire time. And I'm sure you'll edit it to make yourself look good, Meghan accused. We broadcast live, Stephen reminded her. There's nothing to edit. This seemed to catch Meghan off guard for a moment. She recovered quickly, though. Then everyone saw how hostile you were to me from the start. I welcomed you warmly, Stephen said, exhausted. I shook your hand. I smiled. I asked you about your work. I have done nothing wrong here. You exist as part of a system that oppresses people like me, Meghan declared dramatically. That in itself is wrong. Stephen closed his eyes briefly, summoning his last reserves of patience. I need you to leave the stage now. Please. Don't say please like you're being polite, Meghan snapped. You're kicking me off your show. Own it. Stop pretending to be nice. I am being nice, Stephen said. If I wasn't being nice, this conversation would be going very differently. Security is standing. I'm giving you the opportunity to leave with dignity. Meghan looked around wildly, as if searching for someone to support her. The audience stared back, silent and uncomfortable. Her eyes landed back on Stephen. You'll regret this. You'll regret treating me this way. The only thing I regret is booking this interview, Stephen said honestly. Now, please leave my stage. Meghan opened her mouth to say something else, then seemed to think better of it. She turned on her heel and began walking toward the exit. After a few steps, she turned back around. You know what, Stephen? You're just another man who can't handle a woman with opinions. You're entitled to your opinions, Stephen called after her. You're not entitled to be disrespectful to people who have done nothing to you. You've done everything to me, Meghan shouted from near the exit. You've dismissed me. You've minimized my experiences. You've made me feel small. I asked you about your documentary, Stephen repeated, his voice echoing through the now silent studio. That is literally all I did. Meghan stood in the wings for a moment longer, clearly wanting to have the last word, but unable to come up with anything. Finally, she turned and disappeared backstage. The sound of her heels clicking against the floor faded away. Stephen stood alone on the stage, the audience still frozen in shock. He looked at his desk, then at the camera, then at the audience. Well, he said finally, that was something. A few nervous laughs rippled through the crowd. Stephen walked back to his desk and sat down heavily. He picked up his note cards, looked at them, then set them back down. I genuinely have no idea what just happened. I've been doing this job for a long time, and I've interviewed hundreds, maybe thousands of people. That has never happened before. The audience began to applaud, slowly at first, then building to something more substantial. Stephen raised his hand to quiet them. No, there's nothing to applaud. That was uncomfortable for everyone. I'm sorry you had to witness that. Someone in the audience shouted, You handled it great. Others murmured in agreement. Stephen shook his head. I don't feel great about it. I don't like having to ask someone to leave. That's not what this show is about. We're here to have fun, to have interesting conversations, to make people laugh. Not that. He took a sip of water from the mug on his desk. His hand was shaking slightly. You know, I really did welcome her warmly. I was excited to talk to her. I had questions prepared about her work, about her life, about all sorts of things. I thought it would be a good interview. The audience remained quiet, listening. Stephen continued. But from the moment she sat down, there was this tension, this hostility. And I kept trying to figure out what I had done wrong, what I had said to upset her. And honestly, I still don't know. He looked down at his desk, then back up at the camera. I hope everyone watching at home understands that I tried. I really tried to make that work. But sometimes, no matter what you do, some people are determined to be angry. Some people are looking for a fight. And when someone is looking for a fight, they're going to find one, whether it exists or not. The stage manager approached and whispered something to Stephen. He nodded. Right. Yes. We need to move on. He straightened his tie and composed himself. When we come back, we have an incredible musical performance lined up for you. Please don't go anywhere. The camera cut away as the show went to commercial. Stephen slumped in his chair, the professional mask slipping for just a moment. His bandleader came over and put a hand on his shoulder, saying something the audience couldn't hear. Stephen nodded, managing a small smile. In the commercial break, the audience buzzed with conversation. People pulled out their phones, already texting friends about what they had just witnessed. The energy in the studio had completely changed from the excited anticipation at the beginning of the show to something shocked and uncertain. Backstage, Meghan was reportedly demanding to speak to producers, insisting that the footage not be aired, seemingly forgetting that the show was broadcasting live. Staff members tried to explain this to her, but she continued to argue, her voice carrying through the hallways. Back on stage, Stephen tried to collect himself. He drank more water. He shuffled his papers. He practiced his smile for the camera. When the show came back from commercial, he had managed to mostly recapture his professional demeanor, though those watching closely could see the strain around his eyes. The musical guest performed. The show continued. But everyone knew that this episode would be remembered not for anything else that happened, but for those intense minutes when a simple interview question had somehow exploded into a full-scale confrontation that ended with a guest being asked to leave. As the show wrapped up and the credits began to roll, Stephen gave his usual sign-off, thanking the guests and the audience. He didn't mention Meghan again. He didn't need to. Everyone who had watched knew exactly what the most memorable moment of the night had been. The audience filed out, still talking amongst themselves, phones already lighting up with social media posts about what they had witnessed. The crew began breaking down the set, moving with practiced efficiency, but speaking in hushed, excited tones about the drama they had just seen unfold. Stephen remained at his desk for a long moment after the cameras stopped rolling, just sitting there in the now quiet studio. The bright lights still blazed overhead. The empty audience seats seemed to echo with the tension that had filled them minutes before. He finally stood up, stretched, and walked off stage without a word to anyone, heading to his dressing room to process what had just happened. In that room, away from cameras and audiences, he could finally drop the professional facade. He had tried his best. He had been kind. He had been patient. And it hadn't mattered. Sometimes, no matter what you do or how hard you try, some situations are simply beyond your control. Some people bring their own storms with them, and all you can do is weather it and move on. The incident would be talked about for days, weeks, months to come. People would analyze every word, every gesture, every facial expression. They would take sides. They would argue about who was right and who was wrong. But those who had been there, who had witnessed it firsthand, knew the truth. They had seen someone come onto a stage with anger already in their heart, looking for any excuse to unleash it, and finding that excuse in the most innocent of questions.